phenomenon.
Yeah.
Really fast, right? I mean,
Yeah.
within a couple of weeks, this thing is the show on television,
Well,
right?
television's really changed since I was on ER because our first outing, we had a 44 million share,
Well,
which, I mean...
44 million viewers?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's Super Bowl numbers.
Yeah.
And now, apparently, The Good Wife is always number one in its time slot, and it's a big success with a 14 million share.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's good.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very different landscape now.
There's now like 1,000 channels, so.
Well, yeah, and back then, I remember HBO wasn't even included at the Emmy Awards.
They
had
were
the
separate
Awards.
in cable, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's really changed in 15 years.
But so when you were, I mean, obviously ER was an enormous change for you and in your life, but was it crazy at first because of all that attention? Was it like?
It was crazy, but I wasn't very aware of the craziness because we worked so hard and so much. And I felt like in Los Angeles, it's different in New York, you know, because I'll take the subway or I go grocery shopping, and there you sort of live in this little bubble, and you're always in your car, and you're from your garage to your studio and the studio back, so you don't see any normal, real people. So I wasn't really aware of it until my first hiatus when I used to live in England, and I took a plane in coach because that's what you do, and I flew to England from LA, and I'll just never forget. I was sitting there, and just by the 10th hour, tears just streamed. I was like signing things for people, and that's when I really realized this is a huge hit.
Yeah.
And
that people were coming up to you in the plane.
Yeah, they're like, "What are you doing sitting in coach?" Oh my God, what about George Clooney? And it was just like 11 hours of nonstop, and getting off at Heathrow, where I used to get frisked all the time because I played the guitar, so I don't, and I had a leather jacket, and I was a little bit of a hippie, so I was always getting pulled over. And this time it was, hello, Hathaway. And I was like, are you kidding me? And they're walking me through the thing. So that was my first realization of, oh my God, this is global. This is crazy.
So was it a fun ride? On and off, probably, right?
It was a tremendous ride. It was great. But I never really was, I never felt, I was never relaxed enough with it to know it. The way this ride is very different because I can just enjoy every moment. Then it was it was very frenzied, and I didn't know how to handle it, So it made me retreat a little bit. I'm not one to go out, cameras weren't following me at clubs.
Yeah.
That wasn't
They weren't.
No, I was literally, I was so boring. Ran home and I'd be knitting. I'm like, what do I do with my nervous energy? Yeah, I wasn't a gossip person, so it didn't hit me the same way it hit some of the other characters on the show.
Yeah. Well, of course it hit George particularly, and I don't know what it was like, but here he is, the guy you're basically playing a lot of scenes with, has become, I don't know what year it was, became a movie star, but it was fast.
It was fast. It was our third year of ER, he became a movie star.
Yeah. And I don't know what that was like, but it must have been just insane initially, because he was all of a sudden like 0 to 60 in a second,
Yeah, I was just happy for him. It felt right, and he deserved it, and he played his card. I mean, ER was the first pilot I ever made. It was his 14th.
Right. And his second, but believe it or not, called ER.
Called ER, that's right. That's right. And so, and also he was such a gentleman and such a crew guy. He's a guy who really respects his crew, and he's an everyday kind. There was no diva stuff about him. So I got to learn, I feel like I learned from the best.
Yeah.
And he taught me some valuable lessons, and he always wanted us to just enjoy the ride with him, not look at me and there you are.
Yeah.
And we had a really special relationship on television, and we felt very comfortable with each other, and he, I'm normal, I'm not high maintenance as an actor, I just want to do the work, I don't care what size my trailer is.
Right.
So I think he really, having been in that world for a long time, and then all of a sudden shooting to stardom and working with very, out there people, I think he always loved coming home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you did the show, I think, 6 years?
6 years.
6 years. And then they really wanted you to stay.
Right.
Didn't they?
They did. They did.
And there was a big offer on the table, and famously you turned it down. I think a lot of people in show business were like, "She's insane."
I think everybody in show business. Yeah, it was a big backlash. I was so
a backlash. They were like, people were criticizing you for it.
A lot of people were criticizing me. Who does she think she is? You don't make that kind of money in Hollywood as a woman. It was always the woman being thrown at you. And at the time, I was 32, and she's no spring chicken. What does she think she wants to do? Be a big movie star, which I'd never said any of that, by the way. And I grew up in a home where we didn't talk about age or money. It was crass, you know. So I was sort of like, what? Well, whose business is it? I did 6 years. I fulfilled my obligation. I had a great time. I was homesick. I wanted to come home. I'd been living in Los Angeles, which, nothing against people from Los Angeles, but it's just, I'm a fish out of water there. I didn't feel like my feet were on the ground. And John Robin Bates had offered me a play. I had done a workshop up at a New York Stage and Film in Poughkeepsie of a Kate Robin play the summer before while I was on ER. And John Robin Bates put this manuscript in front of me and said, please do my play. And I read it, and I said I would be honored. And I workshopped it with Jason Robards for a year, every actor's dream. Wow. It was going to be me, Ethan Hawke, Jason Robards, and this John Robin Bates play at Lincoln Center. I had signed on to do The Mists of Avalon, which was a 6-hour miniseries, one of my favorite characters. Right. And I was getting paid plenty of money. I had plenty of money in the bank. I owned a home at the age of 32. I felt like, I'm not stupid. I just want to do other things. And I was so, I think I was a little bit devastated because I couldn't believe that that's what they were focusing on, was the money and not the craft, you know? And I guess I was naive in thinking that, because I get it. Everyone wants the American dream, and I was saying no to it. But I already had it as far as I was concerned. I mean, when's enough? I didn't want 2 more years of my life to go by. God forbid I get hit by a bus 6 months later, and my last thought is, you know, I didn't even make it the 2 years, and I'm not doing what I want to do. And so it felt like life's short, and you should follow your heart and be smart, but
were you being advised about? Because I mean, I would imagine agents would say, "Are you crazy?" Because I mean,
because that's all
their money. Yeah.
You know, I have to tell you, I have a great team. Most of them are still with me now. I'm a very loyal person, and they all said, "You're out of your mind."
Nobody walks away from this, right? Nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
But the show for me had changed. Once George left, my character, who seemed to be the sexy one of the show, was getting thrown at every Tom, Dick, and Harry that walked in the door. The amount of back work I had done to create who she was, it seemed, I'll never forget, one of the writers said, there was a scene, it said, my line was, oh yeah, I had to share a bathroom with 7 sisters. I said, guys, I've been playing this as an only child for 6 years. I mean, where were they at my wedding in season 1 if I have 7 sisters? Because they weren't there, I had actually done research on what it's like to be an only child, because I don't know. And, you know, there was no family member except my mother at the wedding. That never happened. So why are you throwing me sisters? Because we need new characters. And it became... And I started to get it.
So they wanted to expand.
They needed to expand. They needed to get things in there. NBC was saying, blow up the hospital and get, you know, we need a boom and we need a... And I was starting to feel very sad about a character I loved so much.
Yeah.
And it started to become very clear to me that without George, my character was sort of just going to be the liaison to flashy sort of bits of things instead of one fluent, cognizant thought. And I felt sad about it. And I thought, you know what?
So you wanted to protect her.
I did.
In a way, right?
And you know, years later, and everything always comes full circle. There's always a silver lining, and it's what I'll tell my child until I'm in my grave. But I have had writers from that show tell me that they were so grateful I left, because they couldn't come up with anything else. She had committed suicide. She ran through the gamut, you know, and they said, we needed fresh blood, and I don't blame them. It's hard to write for the same character for 15 years. Yeah. You know, they needed to bring in new people. It was time.